Namaskar, I'm Harpreet Kaur and I welcome you all to our live and interactive session. You are watching us on PME Vidya channels 9, 10, 11 and 12 and also on our YouTube handle NCERT Official. Well, today in this special session of ours, which is brought to you by Department of Education in Science and Mathematics NCERT New Delhi, we will be celebrating World Environment Day. Yes, this is our webinar series titled Listening to Learn, and today we are in 101st edition of the same. The topic of discussion that we have taken up in the session is ending plastic pollution. Every year we celebrate World Environment Day on 5th of June. Yes, it is an annual event and it encourages awareness and action for the protection of the environment. Every year this day is celebrated under a particular theme, and this year's theme is ending plastic pollution. We all know that plastic is a menace. How we can do that, what all steps have been taken in this direction, and what are the initiatives that are the need of the hour. We will discuss everything in detail in today's special session. You can also be a part of this particular session of ours by reaching out to us through various platforms. So please take down our phone number, which is 880044 0559. We also have a dedicated email ID for you, that is dth.class12@ciet.nic.in. And since you're watching us live on our YouTube handle NCERT Official, you can always go to the live chat box, put in your questions there and get in touch with us instantly. Well, this is the 101st edition, which means we have previously done 100 sessions for DESM's webinar series Listening to Learn. If you want to watch any of our previous sessions, you can always log on to ncert.nic.in/webinar_series.php. We are waiting for your participation, but for the moment, it's time for me to introduce you all to our guests for the session. We have invited two eminent personalities here in the studio, and I'm going to introduce you all to the brain behind this entire series, Professor Gagan Gupta from DESM. Namaskar sir and very warm welcome to you.
नमस्ते हरप्रीत जी, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। दोस्तों, आज एक बार फिर से हम आपके साथ हैं। आज 5 जून 2025 है। ये विश्व पर्यावरण दिवस की तरह से मनाया जाता है। हम आज पर्यावरण से संबंधित बातें करेंगे आपके साथ। हमने इस सीरीज़ को 2021 में शुरू किया था। दोस्तों, आप सब जानते हैं हमने विभिन्न प्रकार के विषयों का इसमें समावेशन किया, जिसमें कि हेल्थ से जुड़े हुए विषय, स्पेस के साथ जुड़े हुए विषय, प्लानिटरी प्रोग्राम के साथ जुड़े हुए विषय, बैटरीज के साथ जुड़े हुए विषय, न्यूक्लियर फ्यूज़न, न्यूक्लियर फिशन के साथ जुड़े हुए विषय। अभी हाल ही में हमने पिछले हफ्ते ही हमने प्रोग्राम किया था एटम बम के ऊपर, आइंस्टाइन E=mc² इक्वेशन के ऊपर, जो कि पिछली सदी की सबसे प्रसिद्ध इक्वेशन मानी जाती है। और आइंस्टाइन को माना जाता है कि द मैन ऑफ द सेंचुरी। उनका टाइम मैगजीन के बारे में आपने काफ़ी कुछ पिछले सत्र में, जब हमारे साथ प्रोफेसर अजय घटक साथ में थे, वो एक बार फिर से हमारे साथ दोबारा से होंगे थोड़े दिनों बाद, जबकि वो डेवलपमेंट ऑफ साइंस एंड टेक्नोलॉजी इन इंडिया के ऊपर बात करेंगे। साथियों, हमने इस सीरीज़ में आज 101वां सत्र है और हमने इस सीरीज़ में बहुत सारे विषयों पर बात की है। हेल्थ से जुड़े हुए विषयों पर बात की है। हमने आपको दिल की सैर कराई है, फेफड़ों की सैर कराई है। अभी थोड़े दिनों पहले ही हमने कमांड ओवर कैंसर पर बात की। इन्हीं सब क्रम में हमने बहुत सारे विषयों के ऊपर बात की। आपसे हम उम्मीद करते हैं और आपसे ये अपेक्षा रखते हैं कि आप अपने पसंद के विषयों को आप हमें बताएंगे कि किस विषय पर हम और वार्ता करें। इस प्रोग्राम में हम आपके प्रोग्राम्स को ज़रूर लेना चाहेंगे और साथ में हम पूरा वादा करते हैं कि बिल्कुल विश्व स्तरीय प्रोग्राम करने का प्रयास करेंगे और हम करते आए हैं। आप लोगों का प्यार मिला है। साथियों, आज जो लोग हमारे साथ जुड़े हैं इस प्रोग्राम में, वो सर्टिफिकेट प्राप्त कर सकते हैं। आज के इसमें आप देखेंगे कि पिन में एक गूगल फॉर्म है, चार्ट बॉक्स में भी आपको गूगल फॉर्म का रेफरेंस मिलेगा। आप उस गूगल फॉर्म में आप अपने सही तरीके से और अच्छी तरह से एंट्री दें। ईमेल एड्रेसेस सही से लिखें, एड्रेसेस बहुत संक्षिप्त रूप में लिखें, जिससे कि हम उनको आपके पास सर्टिफिकेट्स बहुत जल्दी और सुचारू रूप से पहुँचा सकें। साथियों, आज वर्ल्ड, जैसे हमने बात की, आज वर्ल्ड एनवायरनमेंट डे, विश्व पर्यावरण दिवस है। मेरे साथ मेरे एक बहुत सीनियर साथी हैं, प्रोफेसर C.K. वार्ष्णेय, प्रोफेसर चंद्र कुमार वार्ष्णेय आज मेरे साथ जुड़े हैं, जो कि विश्वविख्यात एनवायरमेंटिस्ट पर्यावरण विज्ञ हैं और और एक बार और पहले वो हमारे पास इस सत्र में आ चुके हैं। वो सत्र था हमारा 28वां, जो कि 25 फरवरी 2022 को आया था, और नेशनल साइंस डे के सेलिब्रेशंस के रूप में हमने उस सत्र को मनाया था। और हमने उसमें भी, उस सत्र में भी प्रोफेसर वार्ष्णेय ने प्लास्टिक पोल्यूशन के ऊपर बात की थी। आज का प्रोग्राम, आज का ये सत्र उसी क्रम में आप आगे देख सकते हैं। आपको पुराने सारे सत्र, जैसा कि मेरे साथी हरप्रीत ने बताया कि हमारी वेबसाइट और उनका एड्रेस दिया, आपको मैं एक दूसरा शॉर्टकट भी बताता हूँ। आप हमारी वेबसाइट ncert.nic.in पर जाएं, उसके इवेंट सेक्शन में जाएं, वहाँ पर आपको इस वेबिनार सीरीज़ के सारे सत्र आपको उपलब्ध हो जाएंगे, आप ज़रूर देखें। और आज के प्रोग्राम को फिर से इसी क्रम में फरवरी 25 2022 के क्रम में देखें। प्रोफेसर वार्ष्णेय, आपका बहुत बहुत स्वागत है, और हम रियली वी आर ब्लेस्ड दैट यू हैव एग्रीड to be a part of this program, this series. We are blessed. साथियों, हम शुक्रगुजार हैं प्रोफेसर वार्ष्णेय के, साथ ही हम शुक्रगुजार हैं जवाहरलाल नेहरू विश्वविद्यालय नई दिल्ली के, जिन्होंने कि हमारे साथ इस सत्र में, इस प्रोग्राम में एक सतत रूप से कोलैबोरेशन बनाए रखा है। हमने पूर्व में भी जवाहरलाल नेहरू विश्वविद्यालय के संकाय सदस्यों के साथ में प्रोग्राम किए हैं, और मुझे पूरा विश्वास है कि आगे आने वाले दिनों में भी हमारा ये कोलैबोरेशन जारी रहेगा। प्रोफेसर वार्ष्णेय, मेरा आपसे थोड़ा सा आग्रह है कि सबसे पहले आप अपना सत्र जब शुरू करें तो वर्ल्ड एनवायरनमेंट डे के बारे में कुछ बताएं, जो कि मैंने नहीं किया है अभी। आपसे मेरा आग्रह है कि हमारे ऑडियंस को उसके बारे में बताएं, एंड देन इट इज़ ऑल योर्स सर।
डॉक्टर गगन गुप्ता जी और मैडम हरप्रीत जी, आपका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद कि आपने मुझे आज आमंत्रित किया है और अपने श्रोताओं को मुझे।
सर एक सेकंड, इससे पहले साथियों मेरे से एक थोड़ी सी भूल हुई है, मैं माफ़ी चाहता हूं कि मैंने प्रोफेसर वार्ष्णेय को आपके पास अभी इंट्रोड्यूस नहीं किया है। सर मुझे माफ़ कीजिएगा। तो साथियों, मैं आपको पहले मुलाकात कराऊं प्रोफेसर वार्ष्णेय के साथ। प्रोफेसर वार्ष्णेय इज ए very well known environmentalist, and he is the former dean and professor emeritus at the School of Environmental Sciences, Jawaharlal Nehru University, and distinguished adjunct professor, Asian Institute of Technology, Bangkok. He is also the member of governing body of Wetland International South Asia. Dr. Varshney has also taught several courses, including many universities, including Delhi University, of course JNU, Banaras Hindu University, Indira Gandhi National Open University, the Energy and Resources Institute, that is TERI, SPA School of Planning and Architecture, New Delhi, etc., etc. He has taught. He is a great teacher, and has also been the academic director of Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design, that is LEAD India program, which is an initiative of Rockefeller Foundation. Professor Varshney has also been a senior fellow at East West Center, Honolulu, Hawaii. He has also been a consultant to Economic and Social Commission for Asia and Pacific, Canadian International Development Agency, World Wildlife Fund, International Union for Conservation of Nature, World Council of Applied Economic Research, Indian Institute of Public Administration, and Environmental Planning and Coordination Organization, Bhopal. Dr. Varshney was the founder secretary of the National Committee on Environmental Planning and Coordination, popularly known as NCEPC. He was member secretary of Indian delegation to historic participation in the 1972 UN Conference on Human Environment at Stockholm, and participated in Geneva and Stockholm. He was the leader of Indian delegation to Conference of Parties, that is COP2, of Ramsar Convention held at Groningen. Professor Varshney was the founder secretary, National Committee of UNESCO's Man and Biosphere Program, and in the capacity he initiated for the first time ecosystem-based studies in the country. He was the chairman of the Environmental Research Committee of Ministry of Environment and a member of National Wetland Authority. Professor Varshney has also been the member of Environmental Impact Assessment Expert Committees for several power stations, including thermal power stations, nuclear power stations, and mining. We recently had a long discussion on the basis of the nuclear power stations in the country. It was delightful, sir. Professor Varshney has also been the member of the editorial board on ecological economics and founder secretary of Indian Society of Ecological Economics. Professor Varshney is a recipient of Swami Pranavananda Saraswati Award and Vasvik Award on his studies on environmental sciences and technology. He is a fellow of Indian Association for Air Pollution Control and International Society of International Environmental Botanists. Professor Varshney has authored many books and has published many research articles in journals of international repute. Professor Varshney, it is all yours now.
थैंक यू गगन जी, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद मुझे आमंत्रित करने के लिए, और इस मौके पर ख़ास तौर से वर्ल्ड एनवायरनमेंट डे जो कि 5 जून को हर साल मनाया जाता है. लेट मी जस्ट गिव यू लिटिल बिट हिस्ट्री. क्यों 5 जून को वर्ल्ड एनवायरनमेंट डे मनाया जाता है? साल में तो 365 दिन होते हैं, लेकिन आज का ही दिन क्यों और क्या ख़ास है? तो मैं ये बता दूं कि सबसे पहले पर्यावरण की चिंता के बारे में यूनाइटेड नेशंस ने एक बहुत बड़ी कॉन्फ्रेंस की शुरुआत की, जिसका कि अधिवेशन स्टॉकहोम में 1972 में हुआ. तो ये कॉन्फ्रेंस जो थी वो 5 जून को शुरू हुई थी और 16 जून को इसका समापन हुआ था. तो वर्ल्ड एनवायरनमेंट डे का जो डिक्लेरेशन है और जो रेजोल्यूशन है वो अंतिम दिन 16 तारीख को पास हुआ, और उस दिन ये तय किया गया कि जिस दिन से कॉन्फ्रेंस शुरू हुई है और जिस दिन से वी वांट द वर्ल्ड टू बिकम सेंसिटिव अबाउट एनवायरनमेंट एंड रिस्पॉन्सिबल, वी शुड रियली सेलिब्रेट इट एज ए वर्ल्ड एनवायरनमेंट डे. And this day is being celebrated world over. This year it is Korea, South Korea is going to be the host country where the main UN function will be held, and the purpose of this day is to make people aware of the environment, their problems, and more importantly their relationship with the environment as to how the environment affects them, and also remind them of their duty, that what they should do to maintain and to safeguard the environment, which is one of the most important factor which determines our well-being and our health and our everything that we have around us. So I think this is briefly the background about the significance of the World Environment Day. Each Environment Day, as Madam Harpreet has already mentioned, has a focus point, and this year's focus points happens to be the ending of plastic pollution. We will discuss that why plastic pollution is so important as to really make it a focus theme for this year. What is the nature and dimension of the problem? How does it affect us? And what is to be done, what is being done, and what needs to be done are some of the challenging issues which are really woven with the issue of global plastic pollution. I think plastic waste is everywhere, whether you are in your city, whether you are traveling, everywhere you see plastic. It is one of the most pervasive material which is found everywhere without making any effort. You can see them, you can encounter it. It's a material which has given us a lot of delight, and many people's livelihood depends on it. It provides a lot of convenience as well as it provides a lot of entertainment. Most of your pen drive and YouTubes, etc., they are all really based on materials made of plastic. Plastic accumulates because it does not degrade, it is resistant, and therefore cumulatively it keeps on accumulating in the environment. Plastic waste is found in every corner of the globe. It is the highest point that you can think of is the Himalayas, and among Himalayas is the Everest, as well as the deepest gorge of the earth, which is Mariana Trench. I think the plastic has reached everywhere. So I think the plastic is something, and this will give you an idea On one side it is Arctic, on other side is Antarctic, and the difference is 18,750 kilometers, and you see that the plastic has traveled all this distance. At the same time, if you see the depth, the total biosphere is from the deepest trench to the highest point in terms of elevation is Mount Everest, and everywhere it is there. So, I think it is 360-degree plastic that we are surrounded with, and perhaps this is one of the material which is man-made, has travelled world over, and I think is the most travelled material that we can think of in today's time. Plastic and world oceans have a very close relationship, because all the plastic waste through rivers, through channels, through flood waters ultimately ends up in the marine environment. And it is estimated that yearly about 11 million tons of plastic waste enters our oceans, and this is likely to be tripled the way the plastic growth is taking place, the way we are patronizing plastic, that by 2040 it will be almost triple the amount, which means that in the ocean the plastic is going to accumulate. It is inert, as I have already mentioned, and therefore it interferes with the normal marine processes in a very significant way, on which our well-being and the global economy deeply depends. Every day around 8 million pieces of plastic make their way into our oceans. It is a huge number, and you can see that since they accumulate, you can see that a very vast quantities are accumulating. It is estimated that there are over 5.25 trillion macro and micro pieces of plastic in our ocean, and 46,000 pieces in every square mile of the ocean, weighing up to 269,000 tons of plastic. Enormous quantity. Oceans are home to most of Earth's biodiversity, produce at least 50% of planet's oxygen, a prime source of protein, and underpins the global economy. So, you can see that this ecosystem, which is about 75% of our biosphere, is being burdened and stressed by the overloading of the plastic waste. Marine plastic is causing irreparable damage to economies of the coastal communities, posing an existential threat to the marine ecosystem, including its biota as well as the communities which depend on the marine resources. You can see that the plastic is being eaten or being scavenged by a large number of animals in search of food. Many of them get trapped because of the waste plastic material consisting of bottles and these small circles and so on, and I think their beaks and their stomach, and many of the leftover fishing nets become a death trap to many animals. You can see many number of photographs you can see where you will find that animals as large as camel and elephant and as large as whale in the ocean, they all suffer greatly, intensely and deeply by the plastic which finds their way while they are really foraging for food. Marine plastic not only affects the organisms which are in the ocean or in river, on the land, but also the aerial friends also suffer from the scourge of plastic and suffer very adversely. In fact, there is a very big plastic patch which has developed over a period of time between Hawaii and United States, which is known as the Great North Pacific Garbage Patch, where a very large size of plastic accumulates. Because of the various sea currents, they get accumulated and the size is increasing. And this is as big as a whole country, much more bigger than many of the countries of the world. There is increasing evidence that fishing is the largest contributor of marine plastic pollution, because the industrial fishing as well as the artisanal fishing all discard their fishing gear after it's worn out into the ocean, and ocean is considered as a dumping ground. And because of the nets and so on, it is one of the major contributors to the ocean plastic load. Knowing how plastic ends up in various environments can help to inform policy choice and cleanup practice, such as putting tracks on the nets and so on. I will give you a very interesting instance, a study published very recently, where in Dehradun, in the Rajaji National Park, the elephant dung was analyzed, elephant poo was analyzed, and it was found that a large number of plastic materials are found in the dung, which really shows that plastics are mistaken for food, are taken up, and thus the animal feels satisfied as terms of entering of the material, because after when you take the food, there is a signal which goes to the brain that now the stomach is full. And if the material which is filling in your stomach instead of food is a plastic which does not have any calorie value, which is 0 calorie value, then you will find you remain underfed. And this study shows that in Uttarakhand, Haridwar and Lansdowne forest, these divisions are immediate buffer of Rajaji Corbett National Park and include significant elephant corridor. An elephant is an endangered animal, so you can see that if the elements are not having enough grab and if they are also having plastic, then their vigor and their strength is going to be affected, which ultimately will undermine their resilience and their resistance to diseases as well as to stress. And I think this also affects their reproductive behavior, vigor as well as longevity. So I think that many of the animals in a very quiet manner unknowingly suffer from the plastic problems. Now large size of plastics, they do not decay, they do not really disappear, but because of the climatic weathering, they really dissociate and form small particles, large and small particles. And most of these particles are sometimes very small, smaller than 5 millimeter, and they are known as microplastic. They could be as small as 1 micron, and therefore you have got microplastic, nanoplastic, and they are in billions and billions, and there are many sources. And this illustration depicts the many sources of microplastic. You can see that lot of cosmetic materials have deliberately many microplastic manufactured and added in the cosmetic material. Plastic paints have lot of microplastic globules which are of very small size. And you have got these containers, water bottles and storage bins and so on, skin care products. They get fragmented, create microplastic. Wear and tear of the tires of the automobiles, they contribute significantly. And more than that, the kind of dresses that we wear, which are of synthetic material, also contribute enough quantities of fiber of very small size, classified under microplastic. High fashion is a very major source of plastic pollution and more importantly microplastic. A mountain of discarded clothes in Chilean desert is visible from the space. Piles of discarded clothing and textile in Atacama desert can be seen from the space, you can see here. And you can see that all these ultimately, because of the wind and because of the friction, keeps adding to the loading of the atmosphere with the microfibrils, which are within the range of microplastic and nanoplastic. And the textile industry, which is synthetic textile industry particularly, is responsible for 9% of the microplastic pollution to our oceans and the environment. So, I think that the synthetic fibers which we use, and most of them are being used in high fashion, and high fashion is something about which we should be worrying about, because most of the clothings sold as high fashion are hardly worn 3 to 4 times before they are discarded. They are not long lasting because fashion changes and you move to the next one. And because these garments have to be made available to a larger public, and therefore cheap synthetic materials are used, so that the current fashion is taken care of by fast production of these dresses and articles, which ultimately fashion changes, their utility goes and they are thrown, while they are still very serviceable, and you will find that they become a very big source of our environmental loading of the plastic. The microplastics are very important, as you can see, and it is very difficult to collect them, and to really it is possible to collect the large containers. Sometimes you have seen rag pickers collecting plastic, but microplastic cannot be collected because it is so difficult and it is so small. Many times you cannot see it, and very special processes are required to really identify the microplastic if you take a sample of the air. But the important point is that smaller the particle size of the plastic, greater is the adverse effect on the organisms. And I think this slide shows like this. The chemical effect becomes important as the particles become small. So, potential impact of plastic contamination on soil biogeochemistry, ingestion by birds, reduction in growth of earthworms, lethal toxicity to fungi, mammal lung inflammation, and broad toxicity of nanoplastic are very important, and this is something which is worrying the global community in a big way. Now, in order to just give you a snapshot, the microplastics are contributed by many sources. Most of the important ones are city dust, road markings that you can see with the plastic paint that you can see, white markings etc., yellow markings and so on. Then marine coatings on the hulls of the ships and so on, personal care products, plastic pellets, synthetic textile, a major contributor 35%, and the tires. So, you can see that these are very different type of materials used for very different purposes, but all of them join hands in contributing very liberally in large quantities microplastic to our environment, and thus our environment loading of the microplastic is increasing very fast. Now, here you can see that these microplastics are available everywhere. When you are breathing, you are taking in lot of microplastic, and it is estimated that humans inhale about 16.2 bits of microplastic particles every hour, equivalent to the amount found in a credit card per week. This is the amount, that is the amount of credit card, the weight of the credit card is the amount of plastic waste or these microplastic that we inhale. This means on an average someone may inhale about 7,000 microplastic particles daily. In East and Southeast Asia, this number can be even higher, potentially reach to 2.8 million particles daily, and children are now born pre-polluted, because the plastic, these particles are able to really, I should say, crash enter into the womb, into the fetus inside the womb, and you have got the barrier, that is barrier which really prevents the toxic material from the mothers to enter into the womb is really crossed very easily by these plastic, while many other toxicants are really stopped and prevented to entry to the fetus. So, I think that the microplastics have a very great facility of really passing through these barriers. A Bleven whale, which is one of the largest animals that we see in the ocean, it has been reported in Science journal that swallow about 10 million microplastics daily. It is a huge quantity, and they really are not participating in any biochemical process, and they really settle and become a very I should say interfering material inside the body. Being inert, the only way is that either some of it is lost or deposited back into the environment through defecation, otherwise the body keeps on carrying them forever. All the rivers are loaded with lot of microplastic. One such study estimates that in Ganges the amount of plastic that it unloads to the Bay of Bengal is huge. One estimate says that total plastic is about 317,170 tons per year. That is the amount that the river unloaded or discharges into the Bay of Bengal. And the microplastics are about 6,039 to 72,840 tons per year. Now, the microplastics are huge in quantity. And there are a number of other estimates which vary a little because the way that you estimate and also the methods that one uses to estimate, but the fact remains that there is no denial of the fact that these are the highways and byways of bringing this waste material, that is plastic, to our oceans, and our oceans are really suffering and getting choked and are interfering with the fisheries and many other economically important materials that we obtain. There are a lot of hidden cost of plastics. Plastics receive lot of subsidies. I will discuss that in detail. Taxpayers' money goes maybe funding the expansion of the plastic industry, subsidies in form of tax breaks, grants for capital investment, concessional loans, and persist regardless of the political administration in the power, irrespective that which party really is in the saddle of the government. Everyone has the same kind of weakness, or at least the response towards the plastic and plastic industry. Globally, subsidies to plastic polymer industry in the top 15 plastic producing country totals an estimated about 45 billion annually. Now, it is something that we pay for the villain to affect us both in terms of our health, in terms of our economy, and in terms of our future well-being. So, I think here is a dilemma, and that we should really address, and that is a reason that the United Nations Environment Program considers this as one of the very important, very pressing environmental problem, which is solvable by our little attitudinal change and by some other simple methods which we can apply to really contain this growing monsters on humanity and the biosphere as a whole. A very interesting case, Gaganji, which I would like to share with the audience today, that there was an Air India flight not too long ago, about I should say about a month ago or so. Passengers boarded the flight at Chicago airport to come to Delhi. After really going for 10 hours, the ordeal begins, because none of the toilets was working except one. So, Air India flight 126 was making its way over the Greenland on March 5, 25, when 11 out of 12 toilets broke down with only one working toilet. And this was not possible. There were children, there were pregnant ladies and others, and they were overflowing, and it was a huge problem. The flight has to be returned back to Chicago, and it was found that all the toilet drainage were blocked, and when cleaned, huge amount of plastics were found in the toilet and inappropriately flushed by the people. So, I think because of this, all this has costed money, both to the airline as well as to the passengers, discomfort, as well as to the people who were not able to keep their date for reaching to their destination in time. So, you can see that there are a large number of known and unknown costs that we bear. Very recently, that is on May 24th last month, a Liberian cargo ship sank off the coast of Kerala near Kochi. It was containing large number of containers, 640 containers if I remember correct, and there were about 8 to 10 containers which were containing plastic pellets. These are the original or virgin plastic. They sank, and on 27th a huge amount of plastic beads or these pellets appeared on the famous beaches of Kochi. And then on 27th or 28th, most of them went right up to the coast of other South Indian coasts, and a very special force was deployed to really clean up, because once you have beaches like this, I think the tourist industry suffers a great deal, and it has tremendous economic value, economic cost that the city has to bear, because tourists will not come, the food industry and the hospitality industry will suffer, as well as there is lot of cleaning issues, and more of that, where to dump it again. Now, that is an issue. So, you can see that these are some of the accidental effects of the plastic, which ultimately cost us economically and create a lot of problem for the city managers and for the hospitality industry sitting at the coast. Now, phase out of single use plastic becomes very important, because most of the plastic items that we know are single use. For example, teacups and straw and things of that kind, the spoons and so on. And our Prime Minister Modi ji has addressed the nation from the rampart of Red Fort and have asked the people of the country to really stop using single use plastic. As per CVCV annual report, 35 states, UT territories, that is union territories, have issued notification orders introducing regulation pertaining to the complete or partial ban on plastic carry bags and or identified single use plastic items over and above the plastic waste management rules. Now, government policies about the plastic waste management rules are very clear. Plastic waste management rule 2016 ban on single use plastic, that is 2022, Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, extended producer responsibility, that is EPR guidelines, plastic waste management amendment rules 2025, which is only going to be implemented from 1st of July, introduction of new rule on product information. Now, this is very important, that now things are becoming more tight and are more demanding, and the plastic waste management amendment rule 2025 really demand that all companies which are using plastic packaging etc. must list the quantity and the type of plastic they are using, and by 1st July it will become incumbent upon them to really provide a barcode or QR code printed on the plastic packaging, and also get this information registered with Central Pollution Control Board. When they are printing any unique number of plastic packaging as issued as applicable under the law, so that it is possible to really know that what kind of plastic it is, and also that who is responsible for taking it back. Now, the important point is that the EPR, that is extended producer responsibility, means that those who are really using and providing this plastic as packaging or for any other purpose have a responsibility to take this plastic back after the use is complete and find ways and means of environmentally safe way of disposing them. So, this is going to be very important, and those who are not able to comply with this will be fined and will face the consequences of the law as per provided. Now, less than 10% of the plastic is really recycled. That is, about 91% of the plastic remains in the environment, and only about 10% or 9% plastic gets recycled globally. Now, this is a very big problem, and I think most of the people think that recycling would be one such possibility where plastic can be taken care of. So, I think the material complexity, economic viability, invisibility of the informal economy, all these things become very critical while we are dealing with the plastic. Alternative to single use plastics are many. You can see that now the market, these materials made out of the bagasse, plates and cups and so on are available, and at the same time hemp, jute, bamboo and even pineapple fibers are very good candidates to replace the synthetic fiber, and they are very eco-friendly and are very helpful. And you will find that some of the attitudinal changes can also control the plastic in a very significant way. In a high altitude area where very few people go above 9,000 feet above the sea level, reported visited just about 100, only 100 tourists visit, and yet you will find that Navratan packets and gutka packets are left over there. So, I think attitudinal change are very important. Converting plastic to fuel is an important activity, because after all plastics made up of fuel, and it is very important that we can really convert it, and at high temperature pyrolysis can be carried out and plastic can be converted into the eco-friendly way into oil. And also there is a possibility which has been shown by researchers at the Purdue University that through hydrothermal process plastic, the efficiency of converting plastic into oil can be increased, and therefore it is possible to do all this, but it all costs money. At the same time, we have got another very important material which is available in plenty in our ocean, that is kelp, which is a red algae, and it is a very good substitute to plastic. As I have said, that oceans are full of the discarded gear of the fishing, and you can see that a string has been made out of this algae, which is considered to be as thick and as strong and as versatile as a synthetic string, and I think these are very good possibilities. The important point is that the algae grows by taking up carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, and thus the problem of global warming can also be solved if we are started using a large amount of this kelp, which is available in plenty, grows very fast. It can grow up to 15 to 14 meters in a day. So, I think it is a fast growing, it sequesters carbon dioxide, reduces carbon dioxide or global warming impact, and also provides a very good substitute at zero cost without really asking extra land and without asking any extra energy. And you will find that the modern AI can also help in a big way in really helping us to define as well precisely find out the nature and monitoring of the plastic around the globe. Plastic pollution is a transboundary issue, And not only is it a transboundary issue, it is also a multi-generational issue, because whatever plastic waste you are really depositing in the environment is ultimately is going to remain and is going to be a burden to our great grandchildren. So, I think the global community is very alive to these problems, and they have now working in a global treaty. The process started in 2022, hoping that by 2024 a treaty will be available which is binding, as well as which will help to contain the plastic menace. But unfortunately, there has been lot of disagreement among those who are dealing with the petroleum industry and the corporate brands such as Coca-Cola and so on, which are using, and what do other countries feel. So, I think these are three major groups which have got different objectives and have different viewpoints on this, and all this is really going to be finally worked out in the month of August in Switzerland, where the final draft of the treaty will be finalized. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir.
थैंक यू वेरी मच प्रोफेसर वार्ष्णे. यस, हम मेस्मराइज थे, बिल्कुल देख रहे थे, बड़ा अच्छा लग रहा था और सुनते रहें. अब हमारे पास कुछ आपसे बात करेंगे सर, कुछ आप परमिशन देते हैं?
अवश्य.
सर, इनिशियली यू स्टार्टेड विद द एनवायरनमेंट डे. इट्स किस तरह से ये बना
जी,
किस तरह से ये हुआ, मुझे मैं बात वहीं से शुरू करना चाहता हूँ. मैं जब थीम्स देखता हूँ हर साल की वर्ल्ड एनवायरनमेंट डे की, तो प्लास्टिक पोल्यूशन के ऊपर जो बात है वो करीब 2018 में सबसे पहली थीम बनी, बीट प्लास्टिक पोल्यूशन. उसके बाद 2023 में सॉल्यूशन टू प्लास्टिक पोल्यूशन और 2025 में एंडिंग प्लास्टिक पोल्यूशन. इस बात को ध्यान में रखते हुए मुझे अपने चाइल्डहुड डेज याद हैं कि जब अर्ली 80s when we used to see the magazines like New Scientist or so, हम लोग जब प्लास्टिक के बैग्स आने शुरू हुए थे और उस समय पेड़ों की कटाई पर बड़ा ध्यान था और जूट का बड़ा उपयोग होता था. तो जब प्लास्टिक के बैग आने शुरू हुए, चाहे वो सीमेंट के बैग हों, चाहे प्लास्टिक की रस्सियाँ हों, तो मुझे याद है इन एडवर्टाइजमेंट्स में, इन वर्ड ओवर एडवर्टाइजमेंट्स में ये होता था कि दैट नाउ वी आर हैविंग ए सोल्यूशन टू दिस एनवायरमेंटल प्रॉब्लम्स, प्लास्टिक इज ए बून टू अस. बट विद इन 20 years और सो वी फाउंड कि भाई प्लास्टिक का एक अलग मैनेस है. बट देन हैविंग ए थीम ऑन प्लास्टिक which is a very important point for environment, it could get its point first in 2018. How do you see all these things together, sir?
देखिए, what you are saying is correct, because plastics were considered as a great help and convenience, and I think everybody leapt up, and they really entered into every sphere that we think of. And I can tell you that the lenses that we use for our eyes are also made up of plastic.
Yes.
And there are large number of the valves that we provide to those unfortunate who have a heart problem are also made up of plastics.
Yes.
And many of the bones that are required to be replaced, knee replacement and shoulders, are also made up of plastic.
Composite material with titanium.
Right. And these are all specialized plastics addressing specialized requirement and functionality that is expected. And therefore, all plastics are not the same, and all plastics have a different composition. And since there is a large number of plastic which you will find colored also, where a large number of toxic chemicals are added and colors are added, and all this has resulted into a situation that now we realize that what we thought is a great convenience is ultimately affecting us, and it has become much of a burden than of a convenience over a period of time. And this has happened not with us now. In fact, the environmental consequences and long-term impacts have never been taken into account. The business proposition and the business angle and the business interest has been prevailing, which is still prevailing, which is resisting a agreed treaty to be worked out, as well as are responsible for its monstrous growth that we have seen. This plastic growth has been one of the fastest growth that you can think. From 1950 till today, that's the only age of the plastic, and you can see that what kind of role it is playing. I think it is one of the largest material that you will find everywhere. You encounter since morning till night. When you are sleeping, even then you are really encountering plastic, because through your breath the plastic is entering into your body.
I remember.
So I think that is the state of affair, and therefore it is frightening. And every time effort has been made, but the effort remains too small, remains short of the problem to handle. The problem always overcome and remains and tries to stare at us. So in order to really emphasize, re-emphasize, and to really understand, replacing plastic is not that easy, because a large number of people are involved in the plastic trade, and I think their livelihoods depend on them. So I think we have to have a kind of a system by which the plastic in quantities that they are used, we have got similar quantities of material available at a reasonable cost and accessible to the people to really replace plastic, and also to really provide alternative vocations of life to those who are engaged in the plastic profession. So you see, the plastic control and control of plastic pollution has become a very complex issue, which not only requires technical solution, but requires the societal involvement, as well as it has got requirement of attitudinal change, behavioral change, and all this is required, and all these are very complicated, and we have not been able to really devote enough time, nor energy, and nor effort, and implementation has been very poor and lackadaisical. So all these things have made plastic really a big monster, which is staring at us and are really trying to shed and darken our future.
True, very true, sir. What you said is very true, but at the same time, now we are seeing that repeatedly we are getting more emphasis on plastic pollution in the Environment Day theme as well, and in the whole newspapers that we find today nowadays internationally, that the plastic pollution is considered to be the biggest threat. Is it really so? Because I really see there are many other threats, deforestation for example, industrial wastes, etc., etc. There are many other configurations which are producing carbon.
You are right. You are right. You see, let us take deforestation, about which you have mentioned. Once you plant a seed, the trees will come, and the kind of forest that will develop may not be replacing exactly the forest that you have really cut, but at least you will have a tree cover, which is going to really be very helpful again.
Delhi ke mein aisa hua hai.
Right, right. But in case of plastic, it is not so, because it is a substance which persists. It doesn't die, and it only keeps on accumulating. As you use plastic, it keeps on accumulating and adding to the problem. So that is a problem. And where do you dump it? And where do you find it? Incineration creates even more problem.
That you have mentioned the Air India flight problem.
Air India flight problem is the problem of choking the
drain pipe. Disposal of plastic.
But a lot of plastic is being burnt, and once the plastic is burnt, then you will find that lot of toxins are generated, which really create a very serious problem of carcinogen. It's like
carcinogenic.
Yes, cancer producing substances.
Yes,
so these are the issues which are involved with plastic. And
so we are running towards the end of the program. My colleague Harpreet is also having some questions which you have received.
Yes, sir.
So Harpreet,
sure. You have already covered a lot of important things, sir. Almost my every question is being answered, but I just want to understand that how do you think different stakeholders like governments, businesses, civil societies and common people can come together and tackle this menace?
I think all of us have to come together. And the more responsibility is those who handle large quantities of plastic.
Right.
That is the corporates, because they are using the plastic to sell their products. And I think they have to really work hard and invest money in finding out alternatives to the plastic.
True.
And this has to be taken up on a war footing in order to really make it available to the people and replace them with a convenient and with a user-friendly product to sell their products and so on. So I think the research gone and the material invested and the time invested in finding out the alternatives to plastic have not been enough. And I think it is possible to find suitable solutions, provided we really take it and commit ourselves to find an alternative which is really very simple, at the same time is able to replace the plastic in a big way. I have already told you that there are large number of natural fibers which are available, and algal material that I have told you is available freely, and it not only will replace plastic, but at the same time will greatly reduce the burden of carbon dioxide stress.
Right.
Right.
I sincerely hope and believe at this moment that using algae and other bamboo sticks, as you mentioned in your session and your talk today, will not create another menace of the kind the plastic has really made. Yes, sir. But there is a very funny question now, which we have received, sir.
Yes.
Has every place on this planet has been explored by human, or there are still some places to be explored yet? This is in connection with the Bermuda Triangle, etc., etc.
I think there are many places which we have not explored enough. There are many areas in the Amazon as well as in Indonesia and in our own northeast which have never been really explored the way that we would like to really know about them. And even in our some of the islands that we have, which are uninhabited islands, I think their virtues and their values and their wealth have never been assessed. So I think there are many areas, but their numbers are decreasing and their geographical size is decreasing as we are progressing. So all these things are there.
Is it really so, sir? Because many of the, yes, we know many of the islands are sunk, but at the same time some islands are emerging out.
Yes.
So is it really so that the land area is decreasing?
You see, the land area is decreasing because the global warming is really triggering the
sea
level to rise. As sea level to rise, then the coastal areas get submerged. So gradually, actually, the terrestrial area is decreasing, and particularly the coastal areas are the worst to suffer from this global rise of sea level. And as a result, the population and the agriculture, which presently is very flourishing, ultimately having inward migration towards the land and creating a problem of migrants and ecological migrants, as they call it. And this is where we are today. All this has to stop. And I think to reverse that requires Herculean task.
Absolutely.
But if we move ahead, then we will do. We can do it. We can do it. That we can reverse and we can judiciously use the plastics. Yes, very true, sir. The plastics are inevitable. Yes.
Plastics are inevitable, but intelligent use is required.
Intelligent use is needed.
And we have to depend on human ingenuity and also its resolve. Anything and everything is possible.
हम होंगे कामयाब. हम होंगे कामयाब.
Absolutely.
हम होंगे कामयाब. With this note, I request Preet to.
Absolutely, sir.
We
it's
have many
almost
other
time.
questions also.
Yes, for us to wrap up the session. But sir, definitely thank you so much for your time and precious contribution to the session. It was an eye-opening session on World Environment Day that we are celebrating today. And Gagan sir, now I request you kindly tell us quickly who's coming next.
दोस्तों, जो अगला प्रोग्राम है 13 जून को हमारा 102वां सेशन है. मैंने आपसे पहले भी इसका जिक्र किया था. हम बहुत सारे प्रोग्राम्स पर बात करने वाले हैं. बायोडाइवर्सिटी के प्रोग्राम्स पर इशू करने वाले हैं. न्यूक्लियर प्रोग्राम्स पर और बात करने वाले हैं. मैरीटाइम, जिसका कि आज काफ़ी जिक्र हुआ, मैरीटाइम लाइन बाउंड्रीज़ के बारे में, कोस्टल एरियाज़ के बारे में काफ़ी बात हुआ, उन सब पर बात करने वाले हैं. पर जो हमारा अगला सेशन है 13 जून को, ये बहुत ख़ास है मेरे लिए, ख़ास और मेरी जनरेशन्स के लोगों के लिए, क्योंकि हम सभी लोग बड़े हुए हैं एक पुस्तक पढ़कर, फोर्ट्रान 77. वो किताब फोर्ट्रान प्रोग्रामिंग लैंग्वेज पर बहुत फेमस हुई. वन अमंग द बेस्ट सेलर किताब थी और हम लोगों ने सबने उस किताब को पढ़ा है. उस किताब को लिखने वाले प्रोफेसर वेंकट राजारमन विल बी विद अस ऑन 13th of June, while the full session will be taken up by one of his colleagues, Professor Jayant R. Haritsa from Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. Haritsa will be here with us in the studio, so please keep on forwarding your questions. Friends, once again I make you to register on the Google form if you want to get the certificates for participation of this session. Please be careful while writing your email addresses and other entries into that Google form. Thank you very much. Looking forward meeting you again on 13th of June, Friday at 10 a.m. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your time and contribution as well. It was indeed a delightful session where we talked about ending plastic pollution. So here it's a wrap for our 101st edition of our webinar series, Listening to Learn, where we talked about plastic pollution. And before I wrap up, an important update for all our viewers out there. It's about the textbooks which are available on Amazon, Flipkart and NCERT website. Yes, I'm talking about grade 4 and grade 7 textbooks. Now, I'm ending this session and I hope that you've got all the important insights as I've got. With this, I'm taking leave of you. Stay tuned for more educational content. Namaskar.